Hello friends, today I'll be painting a scene from Turning Red, the movie. This is an upcoming film that will be out in March 11th, 2022. I saw the trailer recently and I just thought this scene was too cute not to paint. I also thought it was a good opportunity for me to practice my backgrounds as I thought this particular scene looked very atmospheric, especially the contrast of this little red panda, or should I say big red panda, with this turquoise background. So what exactly is this movie about? So apparently, Mei Lee is a 13-year-old girl who's torn between being a mother's obedient daughter and the chaos of her youth. As if that were not enough, when she gets too excited, she turns into a big red panda. This particular scene was actually from the movie trailer. It's really funny if you see it. I think she just got embarrassed and she just ran into the bathroom, not realising there was this little girl who was also in the bathroom in disbelief. I started off this painting how I always do, by blocking out the background areas so I can get rid of as much white space as possible. I then started working on the panda in more detail. I found it really interesting how the animators used a really light bright orange for the head area and the tail, and it goes to like a really dark reddy brown towards the bottom. So in this particular instance, Alizarin Crimson, this reddy brown, was my best friend to do this painting. Despite blocking out all of the background colours, you can see that I definitely tried to avoid painting the girl. At this stage, I wasn't really sure whether I'd be able to pull off painting her or not, so I left her blank for the time being, just in case it all went wrong and I decided to paint over her. So after I was happy with the main details of the red panda, I started working on getting crisp lines for the window and also the area around the girl. I think that was what was particularly challenging about this painting, was that I'm used to dealing with fluffy objects like the red panda, but this, as it involved the background, involved a lot of straight lines, and with perspective it's really important to keep those straight lines in the right place, otherwise things can look a bit off. Then that concluded my first painting session. So I actually did this painting in 3 sessions, which you'll soon see as I refresh my paints. Sometimes it's good to approach paintings with a fresh perspective, as you can go away and see things that need to be worked on. So in this particular instance, I definitely knew that the left-hand side needed some more definition, so I started working on the mirror and the little soap dispenser. It was really interesting to paint this sink area, as they had a touch of blue to them, as I think they reflected a little bit of the background. It was really interesting trying to create this smooth texture and straight lines in comparison to the panda. Although this area was challenging to paint, I think adding those clean lines and final details can really make a huge difference to the overall look of the piece. As I had finished painting most of the background areas to a point that I was happy with it, it was time to start the most challenging part of the painting, which was this little girl. As you can see, I wasn't that brave, so I started off by doing her clothes first, as I found this way less daunting than her face. I think there's always just a risk with a face that if you get it wrong it can look scary, but taking bits little by little can really help in a painting. So I started off by painting her little boots and her dress and her little legs. Next up, I started working on the arm. This was particularly challenging because her little fingers were so tiny, and also her face, so I had to go back and forth with various colours quite frequently, as I just felt like my brush wasn't quite fine enough. I eventually mustered up the courage to do her face, and I did this through various attempts, trying to get the proportions right and also trying to capture the highlights from the window. So that concluded the second session. In the next session, I started working on her face. I just felt that the way that I left it in the second session left her face quite desaturated, but you can see that her face is right next to a window and there'd be a lot more light and colour at the front of her face in particular. Then started working on the little details like the little butterfly clips in her hair, and then also trying to lighten up this bathroom stall that was behind her. This was to try and match the saturation of the Red Panda so they looked like they all belonged together. Once I was happy with the overall painting, it was time to work in those final details to make this panda really come to life. So I put in some white highlights, making sure to get that little furry texture. It's amazing what a few little brush strokes can do to add some texture and prevent things from looking a little bit flat. I really can't wait to watch this movie. I think it's a really interesting concept of that awkward teenage girl phase, which I think most girls can relate to. I hope you enjoyed watching my painting process. If you'd like me to do more of these type of movie scenes, be sure to let me know, and don't forget to like, comment and subscribe.